And we are
Yay! And we're
live.
live. Yeah.
We are live.
Now
So
we have
good.
someone to tell an intro because Swimeng is here.
Okay, so good evening, people. As usual, I didn't change my webcam yet. Horrible. So, due to technical difficulty, we decided the experiment between having OBS behind Skype versus Google Hangout on the air. So the first thing to you guys is tell us which you prefer. Do you prefer our full face on Google Hangout on air versus no the full face on Skype or Google on air, like this happening right now?
So this is Google Hangouts on air. So
Yeah,
whenever someone speaks, our big face shows up basically on the video
yeah,
versus the one on Skype
yeah.
where we are all four and
Yes,
then we just like when we just look at whoever's speaking basically.
correct. So just tell us and all that. But once okay, so this is a big disclaimer. I think we should start by saying good evening, everybody. So today, welcome to DevKami. We have today instead of 2%, like last week we have 3%. We have Tristan, say hi.
Hello.
Then we have Wendy.
I am sharing link, sorry.
Okay, and of course me swimming, the guy that talks too much. So as our little ceremony begin, we always start with future events. So our next event, okay, so for those guys that miss it, today we have GX Wednesday and Health Tech at Faith, but it's really too late. So the next big event will be the hackathon. In fact, we actually had three big hackathon on the same day. So on 30th October, we had a law tech hackathon. And at the same day, no, in fact, okay, let's start with that. We had two more hackathon. We had zoological hackathon by organized by the USM. Today is bad. Then we also have Space Apps Hackathon, which I lost the detail. So there's three hackathon happening at the same day. So we, as usual, we actually post it on our link, our show note soon. So that's one. But on 20th, again, we actually had a R conference.
Wow. Lots of
Yes,
events happening at the same time.
yes, it's crazy. So choose your favorite. In fact, for anyone to go there, send pics. We will show it to everyone.
Mhm.
So after that, then we have the big Ruby conference happening on
25th of October.
yes, which is end of this month. Get your ticket, give some sponsor. More importantly, give talk.
Mm-hmm.
And we're supposed to have interview on that day, right?
Yes, probably. So we'll be setting up some booths there,
Cool,
similar to what we did in Python, and we will be interviewing some people. And I think you
awesome.
forgot the DevOps meetup on the 23rd. We just
Oh
recently
yeah,
confirmed this happening on the Hall of Awesomeness. We'll put the link in the show notes as soon, or maybe tomorrow, as
yeah.
soon as
We
the
get more detail.
organizer confirms. And
Yes.
you can all find all of the events at devkami.com/page/meetups. And or you just go to devkami.com, click on meetups, and you will see the events there.
Cool. So with that said, I think anything else you forget?
This online hackathon counts.
Oh,
Oh,
there's a
what
what is
online
that?
hackathon is
This
this?
one, I think Gemstack conference, but it's go worldwide.
Okay.
It's by 8 p.m. And it runs from 27 to 28, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, 27, 28. But that is online, virtual.
All
Mhm.
right.
You can
And
also fly
actually,
to San Francisco if you want, but
yeah, and also I realized that this October, Hacktober is happening. I do not think Malaysia had any event happening now, but
Hacktoberfest.
huh?
Hacktoberfest.
Yeah, but you can join online. In fact, we don't join because I don't join because I'm lazy. But do join. Commit some code. Do a pull request. It's good for open source. And final one. we had okay. So this is actually one of the hardware hackers community, local hardware hackers community online shop. Citron.io actually had a sale until tomorrow.
Mm.
So you
Yeah,
want some Raspberry Pis and all that.
I bought a Maker Uno. It's on sale. Used to be 25 ringgit. Now it's
Yep.
only 15. It's
Yep.
quite useful because it's basically an educational version of the Arduino Uno.
Yep.
Uh, it it has LEDs on each of the pins so that you know if there's a signal coming in that particular pin. You don't have to create a make a tester test on that. So if you have a tester, you just see if there's actually a live connection between two wires. So you know immediately if it's because of your wiring or is it because of your program. So that was I found very, very useful when they introduced us to the Maker Uno during the Women Who Code event last week. And then I also bought the Raspberry Pi B Plus and
Ooh,
a housing. So
nice.
I have the original Raspberry Pi.
Yep.
So I want to see how far the Raspberry Pi has gone. So this B Plus is actually it's the latest. It was released on March 2018,
Yep.
and so they have a Bluetooth module and they have like I think Ethernet as well. So it's very, very different from the original Raspberry Pi. So I was really interested. Oh, so this is 64-bit. The original one was 32-bit. I wanted to know what was the difference, like how fast has everything gone. It's still the same form factor, so it's really, really nice.
Cool. So I think with that said, I also bought some toy, but let's wait the toy to come, then I'll show you guys.
Mhm.
So with that said, I think we should focus. I think quite a number of us actually went to event and do something last week.
Yeah,
So
you were
and something
missing.
happening.
Swimming was missing during the previous podcast. What
Yeah.
were you doing?
So before I go there, I actually went to a Taiwan conference. So
Oh.
which brings to our team. For today's event, we do something like we will actually talk about things we learned last week.
Mhm.
So I think we should start with who should start first. Make a vote.
Should we
Tristan.
point?
Since we just talked about IoT, we should talk about IoT first.
Yeah, I saw you there.
I didn't attend the talk. I was just ready to help out.
Mhm. But how was it like when you organized it? What were you expecting to like get people to be interested in?
So the organizer, like the person who handled it mostly was Lydia. She's really into like
Mhm.
these IoT things, and she had the she wanted to build some like a robot that
Mhm.
can run around by itself. So when there's this professor that sorry, not professor, the instructor, she met him, and he was very willing to like give a free session to
Mm.
but he works in Penang. He works in Intel. Like,
How did he ever get to KL if he was like so far away?
we actually kind of covered some of his costs to come here. Yeah, so he came here for that workshop.
I see.
Cool.
Yeah, and then he, I think, recommended to us to like pointed us to Citron, and then we realized, hey, actually, not bad are their
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
Yeah, have you heard of Citron before?
I didn't, and I didn't know that there was an actual Malaysian electronics manufacturer that's it's in Penang, right? I
Yeah.
looked at their website. It's in Penang.
Yes. And they're pretty cool. So originally, Citron, they're actually catering to engineering student market, which is why when they first started, they mostly had robot controller,
Mhm.
and their target is actually so in Malaysia every year engineering student would join a contest called Robocon. It's a robotic competition where students had to go through a obstacle course to actually do certain tasks, right? And it tend to be on peak because I know some engineering student friend. So what happened is Citron actually started as a group of engineering graduates want to provide service to this company, to these students, and also to schools. It started with that. It's only relatively recently where they start start expanding to the hobbies maker market,
Mm-hmm.
i.e., people that plays with Arduinos, people that actually had robot on my free time. I built a
What
few robots.
what's their website again? It's citron.io, right?
Citron.io.
Yeah,
Citron.io.
citron.io.
Correct.
Interesting. Very interesting website.
So previously their target is on PIC. There's actually a microcontroller from Microchip. So it's an 8-bit microcontroller. You have to use their so it's a little different in a way that you have to use their proprietary tool set, Windows only,
Mm-hmm.
on the C-like language. It's possible to program it in BASIC, but I do not believe they use BASIC for it. So it's actually very interesting in a way that how do you squeeze so many? It's a task is very complicated, and they are not using high-level language. So that's what's happening right now. In fact, they're not even using Arduino, which is very interesting. It's only recently that students start looking at Arduino and doing things relatively recently. So from there, they expand their portfolio, from what I understand. Then
Mm-hmm.
uh, now they go through quite a number of interesting things. They had a robot platform. I don't think that worked that well. The Maker Uno is actually a Kickstarter project.
Mm-hmm.
So very funded, very popular. I'm glad they delivered. Then they actually had a few of the Maker focused product instead of just student engineers product. So yeah, that's Citron. That's Citron.
Mm-hmm.
I know some of the people that works there, so that's a big disclaimer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wendy, did you get the dev kit from the event?
Yeah, I brought since Lydia had to put like a bulk order, so I slipped in one order.
Uh-huh.
But
What you did you open it up and do something with it?
I did open it up, then I put it back because I don't know, I don't want to break anything. So yeah, I heard you guys did a lot with
Yeah,
that.
we did. So it's the so I already knew a bit of electronics, but it's good after those so many years to refresh the whole thing. Of course, the very first thing that I did was to burn out an LED because I did it without a resistor, right? And I like, oh, fine. It's smelling like burnt electricity all over again, and you remember what happened in high school when you were burning all of these things. Back then, just some story from way from some time ago. Back then in high schools, I went to a Range High School, Don Bosco in Makati. If anyone knows about it, it's a it's a dual curriculum school. We have academics and we have a technical curriculum. So in technical curriculum, we do woodworking, metalworking, electronics. We repair stuff with soldering irons and those things. So it's an academic school and a vocational school all in one. So the idea is that if you graduate after high school and you don't have money to go for college, you can still find a job because you know how to repair a
Vocational
car, for
training.
example. Yeah, exactly. You can repair a car, you can repair fridges, you can do some electronic repair work on televisions and those things. And it's a very interesting school. So I learned a few electronic stuff there. I learned how to read resistor resistances using the color bar charts. Back then there was no Arduino, so we had to draw our schematics and then plug things in on the breadboards, and then uh, we had to etch our own PCBs, dip it into the acid, and then wait for it
Interesting.
until it eats away at the non-protected parts of the PCB. So it's all very very interesting. So
Cool.
when I was doing the workshop, that it's all like coming back to me like, oh, this is what uh, engineering, like electronics engineering, used to be, and this is actually I remember that what electronics engineering is actually the hardware equivalent of what we're doing as software engineers. Like when we were designing the PCBs and circuit boards, we had to do like OR gates, AND gates, NAND gates, and those things so that, for example, you have a transistor radio transistor there, then you had to amplify the signals there. Basically, you have a sine wave. You have to amplify those signals so that you can uh, push it into the speaker, which has a particular impedance. And so you have to overcome that particular impedance by strengthening the voltage, making sure that the sine waves and um, are amplified enough but not distorted, because you can distort it if you just mismanage the whole circuit. So it's really nice. It's quite it's a good introductory basic approach for people to start learning about the hardware side of things, like how, like sensors, for example. We played around with a light sensor and with a temperature sensor. So at the end, we were doing a small project where we had to do like a final, some kind of like final project after the end of the class, right?
Mm-hmm.
And me and my partner, we were paired up, and then we were doing this uh, temperature sensor where you put it inside the fridge,
It will get very
and
cold.
no, yeah, it will be cold because it's inside the freezer,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's
I
in the
mean, if the
freezer.
LED or all that will be low.
Yeah. So there's a temperature sensor there, and then if it goes higher at a particular temperature, so it might signal that the fridge lost power, right? So when you open the fridge and the LED is on, that means you should not eat the meat inside because the temperature rose a particular temperature, and most likely the meat defrosted and bacteria has started growing.
You know what's crazy about all this?
Yeah.
You know what's crazy about all the little project you do?
Mm-hmm.
You can even nowadays you can actually publish it on the web page.
What do you mean? Like tweet whatever the temperature
Yeah.
readings are? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, but I don't think it's like maybe with the Raspberry Pi B Plus that I bought, because that has a Bluetooth component and I can connect it online. But the Arduino Uno that we had didn't really have any kind of internet
What? Yeah, yeah,
connectivity.
correct. But
Yeah,
nowadays, chip microcontrollers have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth enabled.
yeah.
I'm not talking about. I'm not even talking about a full-blown Linux computer.
Hmm.
I'm talking about one of those things that got Wi-Fi. I mean, possibly your Wi-Fi cannot reach out of the fridge, but that's another story. I'm just saying that nowadays the same skill with cheap enough hardware, a
Hmm.
microcontroller board, which is 30 ringgit, that actually have Wi-Fi connection,
Hmm.
and you can actually use it to tweet things,
Yeah.
and it's the same skill plus programming.
Hmm.
It's insane. I just want to say that
Yeah. It's very different back then.
you don't have
Again,
those.
yeah, we did have, when I was learning electronics, we were also learning WordStar 5.
Yeah,
So
correct.
that's like, if you remember WordStar, that's like,
I
I think
don't.
WordStar took inspiration from Emacs. I remember, like, okay, you have these control characters at the same time, center text to bold text, and it's like, if in case you didn't know, George R. R. Martin still uses WordStar. So I know what he's using to write the Game
Yeah.
of Thrones novels.
So which is why I didn't change the computer. So yeah. So Wendy done. So
Yeah, what are you guys gonna do with all this power now that there's so much capability?
let
I
me
can also tweak the temperature inside my fridge.
let me show
That's
you
my
my
fridge too.
stupid project. Wait, no application window. I do share screen. I hope I can show this. So this is my robot. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
So that's my robot with the camera. I didn't finish it because Arduino changed the SDK. So the library structure is not compatible. I think they just updated it. And this is actually what I'm talking about. So you see the black thing on top. That's actually a microcontroller board, but this is a little expensive, around 30 ringgit. Then I have a small OLED screen, and this is the temperature sensor.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this whole thing is like less than 50 ringgit or so. It's crazy the thing that you can do nowadays. So, sorry, let me
Which
stop sharing now. Huh?
is that an Arduino or just some kind of?
So, that kind of device is called the ESP8266.
Mm-hmm.
They had a new version called ESP32. ESP8266 is so powerful, it's almost like Linux, but you cannot run Linux on it. They run the type of real-time operating system. That particular demo, I flashed it to use MicroPython.
MicroPython meaning it runs.
So it's actually it's a version of Python implemented for microcontrollers. You don't get the standard library, but you get the core language. There's actually a Ruby version and there's actually a JavaScript version. JavaScript implementation, not JavaScript implementation, MicroPython is there is way for you to run JavaScript on the ESP8266 and the ESP32. It's powerful enough to run high-level language, but they might not have the memory to do everything. So it's actually very crazy. But the thing is, the memory is relatively small, so you cannot do fetch Google because the SSL chain will be so long, it will take up the space. So something to take for granted. So yeah, I have a few of these toys running around. My
How
little
many
toys.
do you have?
Crazy.
How many do you have?
Then I have a so beside my desk is actually a small Raspberry Pi Zero W, which I convert to a thing called Pi-hole.
What's a Pi-hole?
I try to open the site, right? Let me open the site. Pi. It's actually a DNS. Actually a DNS based. Let me share the screen again. It's getting annoying. So it's actually a DNS based ad blocker.
An ad blocker. Oh, okay. Pi-hole, I guess. Yeah, I understand.
But the thing is, you
like
don't
a
have
black
to.
hole, but with a Raspberry Pi, right?
Yes, but you do not have to use a Raspberry Pi. You can use a Linux computer, any Linux computer. But in practice, the only Linux computer that is small enough to hide in your house is actually a Raspberry Pi. So that's actually what I'm running right now. Can you actually see the screen just now?
No, we didn't see the.
Okay, wait. Let me share again. Pi-hole.
Yeah.
So it's essentially you only need Linux for this. But what happened is I had a small Pi Zero. So what the Pi Zero does is it's so small, it's the size of your thumb or so. So I just hide it on my desk somewhere on my messy desk, powered by USB. So I get an ad blocker. So it's really interesting. So for the Citron sale, what I do is I buy a new e-ink based display. It's the same size.
Wait.
So
there's an e-ink based display that's compatible with a Pi, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I have to check that out. I want to get that.
So the reason I buy that is because Pi-hole actually had a API. It's not a RESTful API, but they had a way for you to read the reading on how many blocks and all that. So I want to turn the display into like a dashboard of what kind of thing I have visited and whatnot.
I see. Okay.
So
if, for example, someone used your network without you knowing, you will know, oh, these people have.
Yeah. I can do that. I can do that if I want to. That's not my goal, but I can do that if I want to. So yeah, Pi-hole. So that's my random project around. Sina project used to have a small sensor to annoy people for not watering the plant, but the sensor got rusted. So I need to, turns out that the soil moisture sensor need to clean like every week or so. That is silly.
Speaking of Citron sale, 23 hours, 36 minutes, it says. I'm on the site right now.
Correct.
Looking for that e-ink display.
There's only 7 of them, but it's a cool thing to have.
I'll try to find it.
You already bought from the sale.
Yes.
I bought it. Yeah, I bought.
So put it this way, so people had their shopping season outside for whatever thing during a big sale. This is my version of the shopping festival. So yes, I just need to finish my robot. That's all.
Did you also make a sumo robot?
Yeah.
The Pixie, the sumo robot.
Yeah. I had the initial version, but I didn't finish the project because after I finished the project, Arduino, the organization, they changed the they changed the library structure, and the library for the robot to control that is not updated. So I got lazy. In theory, I can spend time to actually update the library myself, but that would be like another few months of work. So I got lazy. But I got the initial implementation running. It's on GitHub, by the way. So it's actually fun to do. So yeah.
How about you, Wendy?
Oh,
What
I
projects have you been doing?
haven't been making any. I just bought it
Mhm.
there and will stay there until I feel inspired.
No, not necessarily the maker stuff, but like anything.
Anything that I'm doing currently, mostly I'm still like, yeah, no, I don't have any side thing, but I'm trying to like build up some a website for an upcoming.
What's your ideal side project? Like if for example we're going to be working together on something, what would it be?
Probably something to do with like turning data into some story.
Talk about that.
Turning data into a story, like so it's like these reports that we've been having where you feed a like you feed all the Star Wars novels into this computer and creates its own Star Wars novel or something like that.
That would be really cool. You know, like you
Mm-hmm.
just put things into like an algorithm or like
Mm-hmm.
a machine learning
Thing,
pipeline,
right?
and then you know it spits out something that's totally unexpected. I did something similar for my um, university project.
That's actually very cool.
Yeah, so you know how trees they are kind of they follow a system.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean the branches, right?
Oh, I think I know what she's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I think the browser crashed.
Mm. Yeah, so there's
Okay,
actually
we're
like
back. Yes, we're back.
It's fractals, right? You're talking about fractals.
Mm-hmm.
yeah fractals something like that. But specifically they have this term called L
Yeah,
system.
L system.
Yeah. Oh, I only heard of it when I start doing the project. So like I was just curious like what happens when you mix two together. Actually, people have done it before. I just implementing it in another
Cool.
work. Yeah. So it spits out like really random trees, and some of them are like unexpectedly beautiful.
Yes.
Here's an idea. Do you know? I forgot. You know, in the Gravatar, the way they or for example in GitHub, when you create a new GitHub account, depending on your email address, you get a unique avatar.
So fractals, unfortunately, fractals, the beginning of the equation, it's actually based on equation,
Mhm.
is relatively rigid. So you can't really just turn those into something. Okay, I suppose it's possible. What you do is you just take your email address and convert it into hexadecimal numbers.
Or MD5, the whole thing, or SHA-1.
No, but you need to turn it into a numbers. It's an equation thing.
Yeah. So I will usually what they do. So for these things like the automatic avatar generation stuff, they would MD5 or because it has to be unique. If your
Yeah,
account is an email address, it has to be like somewhat unique across everything else, so that you have a unique avatar. And then it's MD5 and it's turned into binary, and then you slice it off, feed it into your fractal generator.
yeah,
Maybe one means turn left, zero means turn right, or whatever, and then it
yeah. But
creates
it's
an
not. So the thing is, fractals are usually a simple equation. So
yep.
it's actually had the origin from chaos theory. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
it's not really origin, but it's related. The same reason why you cannot confine dinosaur in an island. Jurassic
Mm-hmm.
Park is about chaos theory. So it's about how simple thing can cause very. It's called emergent behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Emergent behavior. So things that got emergent behavior are like trees, L systems, which they use to generate tree in game or some stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and colony optimization. How do a series of ants with simple behavior cause node congestion on the roads, for example? So emergent system is actually a very interesting field. So it's how you use slime, how the slime can go through, how the slime can figure how to go through a maze.
Mm-hmm.
So it's called emergent system, and fractals is one of them. L system is one of those advanced one. I'm sorry, I'm just geeking out.
Yeah. No, because I was just suggesting to Wendy, maybe one of your side projects would be to create this avatar generator. Given an email, you can generate a completely different avatar based on like your favorite fractal algorithm.
Yeah, that's an idea.
Yeah,
And then you can make it as a service. You know, all of these things like like the lorem ipsum online service, for example, which just spits out different lorem ipsum text. The picture generation, like placehold.it, for example, which just gives you placeholder pictures based on the size that you specify. So this can be an avatar generation service, software as a service, and then you can eventually start putting an API there, and then maybe it gets used by a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah, something like custom emojis and all. Speaking of GitHub, there was this guy who did this, like he parsed through, let's say, you know, the GitHub contribution map.
Yeah.
So he made like music out of it.
Yeah.
So everyone, yeah, have you guys seen that? It's really cool. So everyone's GitHub heat map produces different kinds of music.
So actually, it's an emergent field of audio visualization thing. It's not visualization; it's audioization. So it's very new, very interesting shit. I'm sorry, you should not say that word. It's very interesting field.
It is fascinating.
Yes. So talk about story generation. I was in Golf Summit, Taiwan. It's a what we call a civic tech conference. So one of the big thing is actually data-driven storytelling. So it's essentially the story might not be the story that you know about, but it goes like this. So let's say you got a set of polluted river released by data. It might not be complete, but it is that. So what are you going to do? You want to find out who is polluting the river, right? But your sense is not complete. So what you do is you collect more data, then you collect more data, then combine data and all that. Then from there, you build your visualization on the map, for example. In one of the workshop, they use a thing called, it's a Microsoft product, Power BI. So just feed in the data, do your filter, then you do your visualization. So actually, that's actually a huge field, data-driven storytelling. It might not be automated. Even automated, it will be very. So instead of things like very general, like generative, like L systems, fractals, what these people do is they take data and put it in a form that human can digest. So it will be one visualization for one thing, pollution, for example, but the new data coming in will generate different visualization. So there's actually one big team in Civic Tech Conference. The team, the other thing I in is actually what we call data journalism.
Oh.
So yeah, it's actually.
But isn't that like given that journalists should be using data in order to write their articles, right?
The skill will be very different.
Writers.
Put it this way, research, there's many ways to do research. One is a read report. That's what people do traditionally, reports and whatnot, right? There's this, and you think that most journalists will use R or whatnot, right?
Hopefully,
not actually true.
Like actually using proper statistical methods when they create reports saying,
true.
oh, inflation is up by this much percent, and then what do you mean by up by this percent? Is it year on year? Is it compared to last month?
Correct.
What are you talking about? Basically, what you're saying.
But they're not. A lot of these are from report, but not spreadsheet. Not necessarily spreadsheet. Some journalists do your spreadsheet. Many doesn't. So, which is why there's this emergent field of data journalism, where journalists start learning to code. Why they learn to code? Not to generate visualization. Yes, there is partly that what happening. The main reason is in a country with relatively good open data policy. For example, in the US had 50 plus states. Each state have multiple county, and each county have 20 plus different field of gender, age, and whatnot, right? You cannot read this by hand. You cannot read this using your eye.
Yeah.
To process it, unfortunately, you have to use spreadsheet. Too big, too slow, or you learn to code. So learning to code in journalism is relatively new. But when I say relatively, it means like 2-3 years already, right?
Yeah, but I think it apparently learning to code is going to be the new skill going in the future.
Yeah. So despite all this big word, there is beginning to have different organization that bring in coding skill
Mm-hmm.
to journalism. So a good example, which actually it's not highlighted there, but same idea. Uh, Panama Papers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Panama Papers
I
is
remember one of your politicians was in the Panama Papers, right? Malaysia.
so Panama Papers is impossible to read by report and head.
Yeah.
So what they do, Panama Papers is actually one of the most well-known use of Neo4j graph database.
Ah.
The
So
reason
someone put all the Panama Papers into a Neo4j and then
it's
they
an
just.
internal team, I believe. It's
Ah.
their team, but it cannot happen without Neo4j
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
because relationship is hard to read. To do a relationship, you have to build the network one at a time. So actually, disclaimer, Sina project do that, but let's not go there. It's not important now. Actually, it's important, but the point is, nowadays, I think, and this actually nowadays, journalism require technology, but we nerds suck at at storytelling. But journalists are very good at it. There's like, but so what I do is there's a collaboration nowadays,
mm-hmm.
which is why some newsroom, especially overseas, had a digital team. That's where they have their analysts, the data scientists, and software developers to actually build a product to tell a story.
Mm-hmm. I
This is
see.
what actually Hackers KL try to do.
What's
Uh,
the name? Sorry.
the organization is called Hack/Hackers KL. So
Mm-hmm.
the journalist is the hacks, we are the hackers.
It's like
It's a national
it's like the
organization.
law hackathon happening this
Correct. It's the
this
same
week.
concept. So
Okay.
the lawyers are the hacks and the hackers are us.
Mm-hmm.
So Hackers is an internet group. I know the Malaysian one. And in Taiwan, my moderator is actually from Hackers Taipei. So it's the local. So the idea is journalism and technical people together to do something interesting.
So that's where you've been the past week. That's why
That's
you missed
not
the podcast.
civic tech. No, there's civic tech the conference GovZero conference doesn't only cover that.
Mm-hmm.
My talk actually is essentially revolved around that. How to use technology to tell a story.
Also, you were speaking there.
Yeah, I was speaking there.
Uh-huh. How to use technology to tell a story.
Uh, Find a story and tell a story.
So what's the short version for DevKami?
The short version is you use pandas. That's because what we use. Then you summarize it into report. That, but at the end of the day, you have to write a story. You had to write something that revolve on the data you found.
But that's an interesting, right? Because in order to tell a story, it needs to be interesting in the end. Because if you tell a boring story, nobody will
No,
listen.
so how do you tell a story? You ask question.
Yeah. So you have questions. So doesn't that make so the data as itself is unbiased, but once you
No.
start making it
Actually, that's
making
another story because
right?
there's actually this data bias is another discussion altogether in the conference. It's
Mm-hmm.
a small corner, but it's another problem. Data have bias. Remember that
Yeah. And
data
it's,
has
it's
a
it
bias.
becomes larger, especially if you make a story out of the data, because the story is usually like oriented to a particular goal. So you're telling a story to get the readers or whoever's listening to your
Correct.
story to somewhere. And somewhere is controlled by the storyteller. And so that
Unfortunately, yes.
yeah. Yeah, so
Unfortunately, yes. But that's essentially journalism. That's why you have news.
mhm.
But a good data set allows you to ask multiple questions,
Mm.
which is very abstract, but ignore me. But that's what I've been doing right now. Data-driven storytelling is actually a very big field. It's something you should explore if you're interested.
Mm-hmm.
I would think tend to think like you ask the questions first, then you start looking for the data and like
Yeah, precisely. Same thing. But the thing is, what's the end goal for For us, we will be building dashboard. Depends on what we go. Some of us will build product, as in an app. So it can be machine learning app or whatnot. In business, often that means dashboard, charts, new data, new charts. How do you explain the charts? Or worse, report generation. So generate report. I hate that, but that's actually a core of data driven stuff. That's why there's a big business for Crystal Report, unfortunately. Or the third way for journalists is to write it down. So of course the story are not necessarily being written, but it helps that you had a written article at the end because that's the goal. But the big idea for data-driven storytelling is because we can generate visualization. The same way that people do not want to look at business report, but want to look at business dashboard. So the idea is the same actually.
Mm-hmm.
So it start with the question, but the end goal will be somewhat different. And sometimes, why it's called data science is because you do not actually know what there is inside. So those things actually point you to a direction of what they have,
Mm-hmm.
which means it should be called data exploration. But you get the idea.
But Wendy, isn't this like the reverse of what you're trying to do? Like this is telling a story that the data is saying, whereas what you wanted to do was to use data to create a new story or something like that. It's something
Oh,
similar, but it's not, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, if you have like a bunch of data and you try to make a story out of it, I find that you will find it like harder to do that. You know, rather than you already know what the outcome is. You know what
Hmm.
kind of questions need to be answered, and then you go look for the data
So
to solve it. Yeah.
basically, what Swimming was saying was this was a human being, a journalist trying to mm, extract some story out of the data versus what you're trying to do, where this is all the data and then let it go wherever it leads,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Hmm?
I'm not really going towards that because if
Hmm.
I'm doing that, then I'm just trying to tell stories for the sake of telling stories
Hmm.
Yeah,
rather than
but
I see.
having a story.
so what happened is you usually ends up, and this is actually what people does. Pollution is a big one. Is what's the question? The question is how bad is the pollution? And the
Hmm.
end goal is for the journalists it's a story, but for in the Gulf conference, GWV conference, there's a lot of NGO. So for them, the end goal also talk to the government organization, our report pollution, better policy, and all that. So the goal is very different, but there is a goal, believe it or not.
Hmm.
You just try to integrate, look at the data to see whether they can answer your question. So yeah, that's essentially what I have been last week, among many things. So
Nice. Wow, what a very interesting week. So yeah, so there was the women who called. Oh yeah, Wendy also missed
Hashtag.
the the health check by Women Who Code. It
Yeah,
was at
that's a genetic one.
no,
yeah,
no, yeah, the genetic lab Advance, I think,
but advanced.
ADVANX.
Okay.
Um, I'll link the website later. So it's an interesting talk about like your genes, uh, that certain expressions of genes will change how will you're likely to be effect for how likely a particular diet will be effective for you. Like Ping was talking about a lot of particular gene expressions where, oh, maybe a low carb diet might be more useful to you versus a low fat diet, for example. And there's a lot of dogma surrounding diets and not a lot of nuance. Like, is this book on low carb diet, for example, is this always applicable to everyone, even though I have this particular gene expression? That's what I think is quite interesting for that particular startup. So they were selling this package where you put your saliva into a kit.
Mhm.
You send it off to them. they analyze it, and then they give you back results plus some diet meal plan. So that was
Spooky.
interesting.
Spooky.
Mm.
It's really cool though.
Yeah, 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 I know, I know. It's cool.
I don't know if it's similar to the 23andMe startup in the US. Have you heard of
Yeah, yeah,
23andMe?
yeah.
So they do the analysis, the DNA analysis. It's the same thing, saliva plus, but and then you send it. But what they do is they break down your DNA and say, oh, you're 63% from Europe, for example, or you're this percent something, and then you have your ancestors are most likely coming from here. And so it has a DNA breakdown of your ethnicity, of what you're likely like heart disease, for example, and same gene expression. So that's what I wanted to also ask. So I'm probably going to email her and ask her
Yeah.
what exact aside from the meal plan, which is already useful by itself, what else am I going to be getting? Because I am interested in what my genes actually tell me, like what my genes are, because I want to know um, basically what I'm made of. So in my company, we're going for this type of um, this type of quantified self thing. So basically, we have a lot of uh, ways to measure your progress in terms of physical fitness, mental alertness, spiritual healthiness, and those things. And it's a lot of it. It's those things that we're aiming towards. And so even the employees here, we're starting to try and seek to quantify ourselves. Now I have these fitness tracker. I just bought a Mi Xiaomi, what do you call this, weighing scale that
Okay.
that connects over Bluetooth to my phone, so that
Okay.
I weigh myself the same time every morning and then find out whether my body composition is changing depending on my diet. So that's actually quite good because I know whether something is effective or not, because I just weigh myself. I don't have to record everything by hand, and then I'll probably lose that notebook later on. So it's all on my phone and everything's there, and I can just um, see the graphs. So that it's quite interesting
Interest.
that you brought up that there is a startup here in Malaysia that does these gene
Hmm.
analysis kits.
But you do know it's still very new, right? It's not 100% thing.
Well, I remember when was the human genome sequence in its entirety? I
The
think
Human
15
Genome
years ago,
Project
right?
done by 98. I
Yeah,
remember
so
that.
I remember I was really like, how do you say? I felt very excited, like when they announced that the human genome has been completely sequenced. Well, not the human genome; it's that particular person's genome. I forgot the name of that guy. They
Yeah,
have a
yeah,
code
yeah.
name for that
So,
guy, right?
but here's
And
the
then
catch. Here's the catch, right?
yeah,
We are. It's like we are all using the web framework, but configured differently
hmm,
with different environmental variables. Okay.
yeah,
So as a result, and turns out that we had a lot of those in human genes. We
hmm,
had a lot of those little genes that is not that
and
is
we have a lot of comments as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's the
Yeah,
thing. So it's like if everyone is genes, if that is not enough. Here, my point is, you need to be careful about this. It's still very
yeah.
new.
I'm just excited because back then when the news came out that the human genome for this particular guy was sequenced and it's fully sequenced, the equipment was like it's like the mainframes of the old times, like it's cabinets of things with cyclotrons and those things. But now it's just a small, relatively small device that fits on a desk, and that's already your gene sequencer, right? And you can find out a lot of stuff. And later
Yes, you
on,
can
we'll
find a
have
lot of
more
stuff, but
pocket
it's
versions,
not.
maybe.
There
Yeah,
is a lot of things that we do not know yet. That's my
yeah.
point.
So
I
here's the
mean,
thing: once these sequencers become accessible and available to everyone, then the research happens after that.
yeah, yeah, but you need to be careful. My point being, there is still a because each human is configured differently.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that we do not know about how the configuration works.
Hmm. No, yeah, and that will solve itself once the the devices and these sequencers are more easily available. Like for
Yeah.
example, the reason why we have all of these Uber, Grab, My Car, all of these things is because suddenly you have easily transportable GPS devices, right? Back in 2010, like smartphones were only starting to be popular, and there's not a lot of people with actual GPS devices, and then people realized, oh, GPS devices are actually very widely available. Why don't we use this to do research on traffic by
Yes.
creating a travel startup or those things, right? And then now you can have Google Maps using GPS data to find out, oh, there's a traffic jam here. Let's reroute these. So the research, that's internal research, of course. It's not publicly available,
But
but I am expecting that this would also be happening the in
yes,
the
but
field
taking
of
the same analogy,
mhm.
same technology, no one is sure whether ride sharing is the cure of traffic jam. So that's the level what we have right now.
Mhm.
So which is why I'm just very skeptical.
I wouldn't say ride sharing is a cure. I would say city planning with the data gained by ride sharing would be useful.
Yeah, maybe, but that's me. So anything else you want to cover?
Uh,
What we
my
have
web
learned?
my webcam died. I think you can't see me, right?
Yeah, you are very handsome and you froze.
Really?
Yeah, you froze.
Okay, I am frozen. Okay,
Yes. So do you want to build a snowman?
I don't know. No, yeah, it's because I don't know. This webcam always freezes at this time.
Okay.
Usually towards the end of the podcast. It's like a signal. Hey, you're talking too much. So well, my webcam freezes in the middle. I think it overheats. I don't know. This webcam is strange.
Okay, so while you fix that, Wendy, you don't talk a lot. So anything you want to share? Anything you discovered for the last week or so?
I think she's frozen as well, or she's just not moving.
No, it's frozen.
No, it's not.
Okay, that works. Okay,
Yeah,
if
I think that's it for this week.
yep, and I think we do actually talk too much,
Yeah.
but
Do
that's
we
us.
have any questions? Do you know how to find the questions? Because Chilong is not here, and so we don't really know
Okay,
how
so
this thing work.
we should able to see the question on YouTube. Let me
Okay.
somebody ask it on YouTube. Otherwise, people will actually try to ask it on Engineer's Mind.
Is there anyone there? Wait.
No, nobody asking anything, and
Okay.
nobody is asking anything.
Okay. Not today, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
turns out that it's not today. So I think we can done today.
Yes, we're done today, and I will stop the broadcast. Any last words before I do that?
Actually, look forward. We got a few quite interesting things happening for the next few weeks. So follow us by then. I think that's it from us. Goodbye.
Okay. Bye. See you again.
Bye. All right. How do we stop?